Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show podcast, the podcast show where we unlock potential one dream at a time. Today, we have another guest whose journey is truly worth hearing. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the Moneyway experience.
You know, CJ, that's a great question, and one I ponder a lot on, not from the standpoint of like, what did I do, but it's like, what was created from that? Mm-hmm. You know, there's one gentleman, I've assisted all three of his sons to go to college. And
what's up, my good people? Welcome to the CJ Moneyway Show. Today I have a special guest, motivational speaker, ministry leader, coach, author, and founder of That Guy Media Group. Hey, welcome to the show, Ahmad.
Thank you, CJ, for having me on, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you reaching out and everything, man. So, I think that you bring a lot, to the table as far as your knowledge and the things that you do, man, and the programs that you teach. So let's get into it, man. So before we start, though, tell us about you did a study about the performance of the habits of athletes, man. So tell us about that a little bit.
You know, man, that was an interesting time in my life. That was my first book. That was what created Awaken the Baller Within, the movie, the book poster you see behind me. I've been in the sports industry, sports writing industry for a while, and then obviously when I came out of college, I did some spot work for a newspaper out in Katy, Texas. That's basically Northwest Houston area, mm-hmm. And then I just was really, really intrigued with the recruiting side of things, and so as I was doing that, I'm watching a lot of games. I'm seeing a lot of guys, a lot of great athletes. This would have been around the time when I did this. This would have been probably when Andrew Luck was a sophomore. Russell Shepard was around that same age as well. Mm-hmm. Michael Thomas. There was a lot of solid athletes who came out around that time, and those are two of a couple of the many guys I had spoken with about this. And CJ, really, Awaken the Baller Within was written out of a tragedy. Around that time. I was going. That was around the time when I had lost my father, and so I kind of went through a little bit of a meltdown during that time. Mm-hmm. And what ended up happening is that I realized that the way I was doing things was no longer going to work, and so obviously I gave my life to Christ during that time as a prodigal. I hired a mentor, and I remembered I got this newfound spiritual and personal development side to me. But I'm also a jock who likes to write. Mm-hmm. So it's like I was trying to find a way to merge the two. And so Awaken the Baller Within was kind of the baby that was birthed out of that, going around trying to find out mentally what separates these guys who are balling out and the guys who are not getting those same results. Mm-hmm. I didn't just want to know that they're stronger, bigger, faster, which a lot of them were, but many of them weren't. It was about the mindset. Mm-hmm. It was the mentality. It was the winning drive they had to be able to do things. And so Awaken the Baller Within is a compilation of those over 100 interviews I did with high-performing athletes who had already left high school and went on to college. So I got the best of both worlds while they were doing it. And so it was an interesting study, and we came away with a lot of great things that ended up being where I used sports as a metaphor. Mm-hmm. I wrote it in quarters, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. And so it was written in a way that's this sports related. But here's the deal. When parents would buy the books for their kids, they realized the book's not really about sports at all. Mm. About a mentality, because I had people call me saying, hey man, I can be a better realtor because of this. Hey, I can be a better teacher because of this. I can be a better policeman because of this. Yeah, sports was just a metaphor. Sports is the way in. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about a mindset because remember, we're talking about the success principles to help them on the field. But you got to understand, CJ, most of those guys I interviewed, and I keep in touch with a few of them here and there, man, all but I think two of them are still playing football. The rest of them are successful. And I mean like successful in all areas of life. They're great fathers. One of my guys just had his third kid, right? They're running businesses. They're professional men. They're engineers. They're actors. They're entrepreneurs. They're doing major things. So what that shows is that the success they had on the field is now being mirrored in their professional lives off the field. And that was what that book was written about. To make sure to understand that the mindset you have is what creates the world around you. Mm-hmm. And of course now, and there was some faith-based things written in that book as well. But now obviously I'm much deeper into my faith now than I was then. So it could even go deeper than that. Once you have the faith and the mindset and then the works that go along with it, man, we're doing some great and amazing things with that.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying too about the faith act, because as we talked about or we went through in text, I had a similar situation myself. In 2015, November 15th, I published my first book, and man, exactly a week later, November 22nd, my father passed away. And so, like the joy that you have 1 minute to, accomplish something that you wanted to do, that you set out to do, and for something like that to happen, like you said, I kind of went through a little thing where it wasn't as fulfilling, But as you say too, I give you a title here and there, but once you open it up, man, there's so much more, because it's like you say, the mindset. I want you to see the things of God and the things that, because it was scripture based too. And, like you just said, as I've gotten older and have progressed more, my thought process in the word is even deeper. So that's why later on next year or sometime next year, I'm coming out with a book called The Issues of Life. But so, I connect with you on that. I understand what you said about that on that level. So tell us, man, what is the feeling like when you have helped so many people, by funding over like $6 million in scholarship money, man? So like, what is that feeling like to know that you're making an impact in other people's lives?
That's a great question, and one I ponder a lot on, not from the standpoint of like, what did I do, but it's like, what was created from that? Mm-hmm. There's one gentleman, I've assisted all three of his sons to go to college, and they're all three successful, right? None of them made it to the NFL, but that didn't matter. The bottom line is that they were able to send their kid off to school and all of that. So when I look back on it, man, and maybe I didn't realize what I was doing, and the Lord was using me even then in ways I didn't even know, because I was building a bridge to the next generation. I was doing it because it just was the right thing to do. Help a young man get an opportunity to play some ball, get him an education. It's paid for. But what in actuality is that you build a couple of more branches on the family tree to be able to pass along not only wealth but knowledge. Because I've been sharing this a little bit recently, and now I'm a little bit more open with it. But one of my goals is to duplicate myself 100 times in my life, to create someone with the same servant mindset of me and the servant leadership, right? To go out and do things and serve others in a way to where this is not about me at all. Mm-hmm. This is about, man, I'm someone who just like to see people win. I look at my young people and I'm just like, you know what? Your leader's going to be ultimately successful. And I'm successful right now. And I want you all to make me look like small peanuts to the success that you all can accomplish when you get my age and even sooner. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm teaching some of my youngsters right now, like, hey, stack aside this amount of money. Go ahead and start putting your money into this. Go ahead and start doing these types of actions or whatever. I figured that out when I was 35, 37 years old. Mm-hmm. I'm sharing that with a 14-year-old now. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. I'm trying to get you game. So when I look back and I see that number is just like, man, what if? And I don't like what ifs, but for the sake of this conversation, let's go, what if? What if I would have accepted the calling earlier? That $6 million have been 20 million? Could I have done 12, 15, $20 million in helping young men get scholarships? But I don't want to live in the past in that way, but I do want to look at that, as you just brought that back up, as a marker to say, okay, I have a benchmark of what I did at a time when I was in that place. Now, can I reach 10 young men in the same way to do that work and even greater works? As our Lord told us, the greater works, you will do even greater than what I've done. And so I want to be able to follow that example and be able to do that and be able to produce even more than that, even at my age now.
And I think that you will, man. Like you said, as we talked earlier, it's all about the mindset. And that's one of my biggest components too, because I didn't really learn about certain things until I was 37, 38, and I wasted a lot of years, and so like you say too, so my thing, as we talked earlier, is about, man, I want to help somebody younger than me, or even somebody that was at the, hey, you don't have to go through what I endured. You know what I'm saying? Like that, I'm trying to give you some game for free right now. You don't have to endure that, man. It's a much better way. And if you take that path right now, man, you will see, and so I definitely use it with my sons. I got a son, he's 27. My youngest is 13. So I really try to put that on them, man, because y'all don't have to go through what daddy went through, man. Y'all can have a much smoother ride in life. But yeah, man, I think you're going to accomplish the 6,000. Like you said, that was the benchmark, man. You're going to soar, man. It's going to go much higher than that. Just keep doing what you're doing, bro. A lot of us, we think that we know sports. As we talked about, I play ball and this and that. We think we know sports. Give us some insights of a college locker room, which a lot of us has never been in a college locker room. What is that atmosphere like? And what does a real sports analyst, what's the intel of a real sports analyst and the preparation that you have to go through?
The locker room, I played Division I ball for just under 2 years. And it was a great experience, being in there with a lot of guys, because you have to realize that, like, you're in a step ahead from being in high school. Like, everyone gets a shot at high school, for the most part. Like, no one really gets cut for the most part. There's a team for you somewhere to get in. And so knowing that you get to college, it's like, okay, at least these dudes was like a step above, 80% of the guys they went to high school with, right? This is pulling some cream. This is finding the diamond right here and coming on in and playing on this end. I mean, the locker room it's not that much different than a high school locker room. It's just people have a little bit more confidence in who they are, and they let it be known. And obviously, it goes by your leadership. I think the locker room we had was pretty cohesive when I was at Stephen F. Austin State University and good old town Nacogdoches, Texas. And we won conference, and it was good times there. I think it's not for the weak-minded. I can tell you that for sure. If you're sensitive, like, hey man, I don't know what to tell you, because I mean, and to be fair, you got to remember, I was at Stephen F. I was playing on that team in 1999, and you and I know that young people, sports, media, and everything has changed a bunch since 1999.
Yeah, it has.
So I don't know what these guys today are on. I could tell by some of their choices in clothing. Not to mention, I got a text this morning. Somebody texted me and said I dropped my kid off at school, and there's a young man with a pink Hello Kitty backpack on, and was like, "Ahmad, what is this?" I'm just like, "Look here, okay." That's this new. That's another conversation for us. But just I don't know what the new locker room is like. But I imagine it's a lot of talent. It's a lot of egos, a lot of confidence, a lot of bravado. But that's what comes with it. I mean, we're men. We compete, and that clash can happen. And the other part of that, from the standpoint of you said about the analyst side of things?
Yeah, so like, you use a sports analyst. And so, like I was saying, like, let's just say me and my brother, we'll get on the podcast and we'll talk sports. And you be at work and you talking sports with your guys and they Bulls fans, or somebody might be Houston Rocket fans when James Harden was playing with them and everything. And so now you analyze, and we call ourselves analysts. So from a professional analyst insight, being in the room where you guys got to prepare and go through notes. Give us, what do a real analyst, what's the entails that you guys and the preparation that you guys actually have to go through to come out and talk on TV and give us some real stats?
So with me, I was a college football recruiting analyst. So I went to obviously a lot of high school games, and then I would go to a handful of college games. And obviously I'm the first thing I'm doing as an analyst for me is I'm looking at the tape, right? Like if I was still in that world like I was, I probably during this time I would have been making a break from watching my fifth tape on a young man, who's, looking at 4 or 5 different schools. And so I'm looking, obviously different positions, you're looking for different things. You're looking for explosiveness. You're looking for, speed. You're looking for accuracy. It goes by position. Mm-hmm. But I always, once again, remember, I wrote Awaken the Baller Within, so I'm always talking about the mind. And so for me, I like to have a couple of questions that I ask during my discovery process that have nothing to do with football. Mm. That's me. Mm-hmm. I want to know, and I like to just study young men around their groups, around their families, around their coaches, and just see what that looks like. And what I mean by that is I want to know the things that you cannot see on the film. Like I'll go to a camp, and I'll go to a camp early, and I'll just go to a random football, sit back, have my pen in my hand, have my recorder out. I'm just looking at the field, and maybe there's a dad or a coach or someone out there, introduce myself and say, hey, you guys, is your boy out there? It's like, yeah, he's number 12 over there. It's like, yeah, okay, cool. Tell me about him or whatever. And it's like, oh, he's going into his first year of varsity, and he's doing this, and the dad is opening up about him. And I'm like, okay, and I'm taking some notes here and there, and something intriguing may come from that. Oh, when he's not playing football, he plays the piano. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. That lets me know he's cultured, right? And then, you get all this intel from them. And he's like, yeah, when he also plays, he plays shortstop for baseball. And it's hard for him to make all the baseball games because he has a train for football. So now he's a multi-sport athlete. Mm-hmm. And so I like to get all of the intel possible to understand the makeup of this young man. Because see, what did I just learn? I learned that he's a multi-sport athlete. I know that he's cultured, which means more than likely he has a strong household structure there, which means he's less likely to get in trouble when he gets to college and even in the real world. He's the least likely to probably be arrested for something dumb. He may or may not. He probably doesn't use drugs. And so, all of these, I'm not going to say they're assumptions, but this is data is needed for me to understand the player. When we're watching games even now, I cannot know anything about a team, a player, maybe even the sport as a whole. But if I watch a random football game, like we do on Saturday sometimes, and I'll look at a team and I'll say, that team is going to lose. Why? And they'll say, why? I said, look at them on the side. Put a little praise break in between there or something. Nobody knows.
Yeah, I got it. We already know what that is. You know what I'm saying? When you try to do something positive, you speak positive. Hey, he only comes to kill, steal, and destroy, man. But we ain't gonna allow that to happen today, man. So we back. Had a little technical difficulty, people. I'm still back with my man Ahmad. Hey, you're a very sought out motivational speaker worldwide. So just tell us about what's your motivation to get up every day and to go out and inspire others, man.
I guess you could just, if we can go, if I can just go just to go do the work, to do the good work, to share the good news, right? And obviously, that's out of Matthew and go out and share the to share the gospel with others or whatever. And so for me, it's just the idea that I do truly want to serve others. And attempt to make the world better than when I got here. And so when I'm teaching, I'm traveling, I'm coaching, I'm speaking or whatever, it's like I go into every one of them knowing that this is the moment that's going to change. Somebody's going to walk away from this with something that's going to make their lives better. I did a conference, CJ, in Austin last year, right before we went on our mission trip. And I remember a bunch of people were coming to me and sharing me how it had changed their life. But there was this one man who was just leaning up against the wall by himself. And he stepped away from that wall and grabbed my hand and just looked at me closely and was like, "You were talking to me." That story about not feeling noticed and that you have value to the company, you were talking to me. We do it, CJ, for the one. That's what you do it for. You do it for the one. I know, everybody's like, crowds of 4,000 or 5,000. We're only there for the one, right?
Yeah.
And so when those people find me, or the young man who sends me a text message or an email 7 years later and was just like, "I remember being in the back of the room when you spoke in this locker room, and I was the young man in the back who didn't know where my future was going to go to. And now I have a career as an engineer and I'm doing this and I'm doing that." And I'm like, okay, God, this is what you sent me here to do. This is the mission. This is what, and so that's my motivation. My motivation is not only to build a bridge to future generations, but just give a word or something to where somebody wakes up tomorrow and says, because of that man and what he said and what he represents, tomorrow I want to do something different. Just one. And that's a new way of me thinking, because before it's just like, I wanted everybody to get it. And that's just not how that's supposed to work. Even Jesus showed us that. He wasn't even effective in the place where he grew up. So, and so I look for the one. And so that motivates me every morning to say, Lord, reveal to me who I'm supposed to connect with today, and share your good word and your works with them.
We'll be right back.
Don't miss out on CJ Moneyway's book, Both Eyes Open and Both Eyes Shut. And get ready to pre-order his upcoming release, The Issues of Life, coming soon. Moneyway, aiming to inspire.
And I believe that 100%. I just interviewed a young lady a couple weeks ago, and she did my daughter's 6th grade commencement speech. So this was 16 years ago. And as you said, as the people that came to you, she told me how privileged she was for me to remember her, or the speech that she gave 16 years ago, and to still have that in me to be like, man, because I remember the little girl, she went through this story and she said, and that little girl was me. And I've always remembered that. And when I started doing this podcast, I reached out to her. And, just the excitement that she had. And I know, as you said, with the man that grabbed your hand, to feel as though, to know that you have made an impact in somebody's life and don't know this person or know where this person come from or nothing, but just to know that this person came to you and said, "Hey man, that was for me and I appreciate you." And like you say, God putting you on the path, and he puts us in places that we need to be at the time that we need to be there. A lot of times we don't know why, but for that one, it's not like the 99 that stayed, that didn't get lost. He come for that one and rejoice over that one more than the 99. So yeah, man, so I understand what you said on that point, bro. So when did you realize that your ministry, or your motivational speaking is when you broke it down where you wanted to just speak, your audience was going to be with the youth?
Well, obviously my audience is not 100% youth, but that is where a lot of my focus goes to. Most people, when they see my profile or whatever, they'll see that a good portion of it is with the youth. Whereas that is a target audience of mine, I'm of the belief that if we don't invest in the future, We don't have one. So, I mean, a lot of people look at, generations behind them, and they did it with us too. But like, obviously it's like, well, it's different now. And it's like, well, they said that about us too. It's just, if we just think that the students and the young boys and girls who are behind us, if they're just, they're just not going to get it, they just don't share the values or whatever, it's just like, well, they didn't get there on their own. I'm not saying that we caused the problem or who caused the problem. All I'm saying is here we are. We keep thinking, again, like you said, you're looking for the one. Well, we can use that same concept when it comes to reaching the next generation behind us. We don't need 100%. 10, 12, 15, tip the scales over and allow them to go out and let their fire burn, go out and allow their light to shine. That's a bargain, and that's a ratio I'm more than willing to accept. And so when I look at and I hear them talking about, these kids don't have any respect, don't have this and that, and I'm like, well, where are you looking? Because I work in the Woodlands, Texas, here in North Houston area, and I have young boys and girls who are on fire for Christ, who are on fire for righteousness, on fire to do what they are called to do by their Father. What that does for me is like, okay, God, you're showing me that, like, hey, there's some impact to be made here. So now, not that I was like, oh, well, I don't know what I'm going to do here. No, but what ends up happening is like, we can double down now. We see some fruits, right? Remember, we don't have to see all of it. We just need to see the next step. We just need to see enough light to know that, hey, I'm going to bring all the gas on this bonfire and throw some more wood on top of it on behalf of the fact that if I can encourage enough of them to carry on this, but see, CJ, we can't get into the same hallways of the schools and colleges that they can. We're not on the sideline at those games. We're not in the locker rooms of any of these different sports. They are. So what is our job? Our job is to wake up every morning, give thanks to the Father, and pour all of what you have into the next generation so they can go out and fight the battles that you cannot.
And like you say, because that's one of my biggest things too, is that the Bible say that some plant, some water, and he say, but neither one of them is nothing because it's God who gives the increase. And so my thing with that is, regardless of which one you doing, because we don't know which one we doing. We don't know if we planting or if we watering. Because somebody already could have planted before us, and then we come in the water, or you're just planting. But whatever it is, it's our job to do what, as you say, as the Father has commissioned us and has told us to do. Plant, water, spread the word, and try to bring this younger generation, and not even, like you say, it's not just a younger crowd, because it's not just the younger generation that needs to find this. It's of all ages. Like you say, we can go from 48 to 62. They might not be as receptive, but, I agree with what you're saying, man. We gotta catch them, and I'm glad that you guys got young people that's out there that's on fire for the Lord. And as we know, as the Bible say, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they get old, they won't depart from it. I'm glad that my mother brought me up in the church, although I departed, and so although I departed, but like the things that you're saying now that I'm taking what you're saying, if we can get them early, as we talked about earlier today, if you can get them earlier on that right track from an early age and don't skip a beat like I had in life, then man, by the time they get our age, man, life would be way much successful and way much better for them, man. So how has your faith fueled what you're currently doing?
It is the fuel. It's the engine. It's the steering wheel. It's the key lock. It's all of that. I've you were talking about train a child up, and it's like and they'll never depart. But what the deal is that, you said you did depart because you were supposed to. That's why the prodigal son story. That's why the lost sheep, the lost coin, the lost son, the lost everything, right? Mm-hmm. We've all been prodigals, right? And in my Bible reading, and I'm not going to come off as a scholar, but I'm around plenty of them at my church, that is absolutely part of the process. Mm-hmm. To go out, squander all the Father gave you, realize you done messed up, and it's like, I was better off a year ago. I was better off some time ago. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but as soon as he's like, and basically said, I'm going to go and say, Father, I don't deserve any of this. Mm-hmm. And I'm coming home to you. And the Father was like, no, we're setting it out. My son was lost and now he's found. Mm-hmm. Clean him up. Get the party together. Get everything. I want all of it because he's come home. So what is that saying? That's saying that like we are called to have those moments. I mean, think about who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament.
Yeah.
The brother Paul.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Saul turned to Paul. Yeah.
Just out there, I'm just taking all the guys like Paul, right? We know this to be true. And so when you ask what my faith fuels me, like I live, move, and have my being. I wake up every morning before we got on today, and I'm having my Devo, I'm having my prayer time, and I'm just pouring out to God saying, man, God, thank you. I don't deserve any of this. Yet you saw to die for me and cover me in your blood, right? And it's just like sometimes if you really fathom what Jesus gave for us to sit here on this podcast and say, what fuels us and how does faith fuel us? It's like it's everything. It's the reason we have life. Life. I share with my youngsters, a life without God is just not life. It's just you're existing, right? I want to live, and I want to live abundantly because my Father told me that I can have that when I seek Him first. And when I seek Him, I'll find Him. As many times as I've left and went out and done things my way, and of course they don't turn out because that's just how the story always is. Everyone in the Bible fumbled in some kind of way. Old and New Testament, just like I thought I told you all. Yeah. Like this is how it's going to be. It's like, well, we're gonna do it our way. Oh, okay, go ahead and do that. So my faith is the future, and is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, and the reason why I now have, I guess, kind of rededicated and allowing the man who shows up on Wednesdays and Sundays at the church to show up Monday through Friday as well. And so that's sort of the transformation I've had probably in the last 2 years, being with the ministry group and the powerful men who pour into me over at my church, over at Grace Woodlands. Those guys are the reason that this man sits across from me right now on this podcast. They have poured out to me so much, and I thank God for them every day that they have helped create in me a man who's able to come up here and share this with you and your audience, and just share and just show how God has used others and poured into my life. And so it's up to me to take that pouring into, to take the morning time, to take the wisdom I've gotten and pour it out on the others, and then come back and reload and do this all over again tomorrow.
Man, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming in, pouring, what been poured into you and to us. Because, as you say, I thank God as well for the men that I'm surrounded with around church. Because, as we know, the Bible say, iron sharpens iron. And once you get it, like you said earlier, it's not everything is not just for you. It's for a lot of things that we do, and a lot of things that God has given us. It's for other people. Just like with Joseph, although he went to Egypt, but it really wasn't for him to, say himself. His main thing was God sent him first so that he can bring his family along with him. But he was just the first one to go. And that's what he told his brothers when they came. He said, look, y'all didn't do this to me. He said, God sent me first. And so a lot of times, like you, myself, and others that we probably know, and somebody that's listening to this show right now, God has sent you first to do a work, not just for you, but for those that's behind.
Thank you for listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, leave a comment, and drop a review. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Friday for more inspiring journeys. Who knows, your story might be next. Thank you for listening to the CJ Moneyway Show. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends, leave a comment, and drop a review. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday and Friday for more inspiring journeys. Who knows, your story might be next.